Hey, thanks for your interest in the PMI program at the University of Pittsburgh. I am Dr. Heth Turnquist, an associate professor in the Department of Surgery, and I have a secondary appointment in the Department of Immunology. I lead a research group out of the Starzl Transplant Institute that typically consists of 6 to 8 people, including usually 1 to 2 PMI students. I enjoy collecting records, and I came across this image on an album cover that I thought was quite symbolic of what we're trying to achieve in my laboratory. Like this robot on this Canadian indie band's cover, Silverstein, our body is always scanning its organs and tissues for injury, infection, and damage. But as what is implied by the title, when it's broken is easily fixed, the immune system really has a difficult time currently fixing it well. This means that trauma and injury causes reduced function, organs fail over time, and we need to replace them through transplantation. And unfortunately, these transplants will often go on to develop fibrosis and vascular disease that then causes them to fail and resulting in morbidity and mortality in our transplant recipients. By understanding these signals that the immune system is detecting and the mechanisms, both beneficial and detrimental, that they trigger, we hope to use this information to either bioengineer or use novel therapeutics to improve transplant outcome and potentially fix and repair organs that are failing to limit the need for transplantation. We have several NIH-funded studies from which a graduate student can build a project. The first involves identifying alarm and responsive immune cells that are beneficial for outcomes after transplant. On the right here, you have an example of a typical project where we use transgenic mice to identify a regulatory alarmin, the stromal-derived protein interleukin 33, which is released after transplantation to program the metabolism of infiltrating monocytes and macrophages. And this prevents their differentiation into inflammatory cells that then cause this graft rejection shown here. The second project is a collaborative one with investigators in the McGowan Regenerative Medicine Institute. And here we are establishing how an extracellular matrix associated alarmin are critical for muscle repair after injury. And then finally, we have an active project identifying why alarmins that typically support repair and injury resolution instead cause graft versus host disease and often lethal disease after allogeneic stem cell transplantation. This is an image of an alarmin reporter mice that we are using to establish when and where these detrimental alarmin-mediated signals are taking place. If you have any questions, please email me at het5@pitt.edu, and I'm happy to arrange for a time to discuss potential rotation in my laboratory or answers any questions you have about the PMI or doing research at the Starzl Transplant Institute. Thanks and good luck with your decision. So I'd just like to take some time and introduce you to the team that works with this. As you can see in here, we'll have a pretty collaborative team. There's a few PMI students that we interact with, but also then students from chemical engineering as well as bioengineering through our various collaborations. So these would be ones that, based off our interest in tissue injury, immune cell mediated tissue repair responses, we've got to interact with, wrote grants with, and then often we'll have journal clubs, research discussions. And so first, I guess I'll introduce Galen Dwyer. She is a G4 MSTP student. She's really working with to help answer why radiation-induced tissue injury causes release of things like IL-33 as well as other factors that then go on to support a disease called graft versus host disease. That is really a significant barrier to successful outcomes after allogeneic stem cell transplantation. So you want to say hi, Galen, and just, I guess, tell us a few things what you like about the program, like about the city.
Hey, everyone. Excited that you're interested in Pittsburgh. It's a really awesome program. I'm in the PMI program and also in the MD PhD program. So I'm doing a little bit of both, and I've been here for a long time. I really like Pittsburgh because as a city, it's a lot of fun. It's a decent sized city, but it also has nice neighborhoods that make it feel kind of like a small town at the same time. There's lots of parks that you can get out to within just a couple of minutes of where you live. And then there's a really awesome food scene when there's no COVID. So I highly recommend it.
Thanks, Galen. The next alternate would be Jordan. So Jordan is a PMI student. He is at G1, so he's just rotating with us right now. I guess, Jordan, can you tell us a little bit what really interested you in the PMI program and what you thought about Pittsburgh, although COVID, I know, is kind of...
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm a first year and I'm doing my rotations. And the thing that interests me about Pittsburgh versus other schools was just like I could see the collaboration within the department and with the other departments. And like, despite COVID kind of making everything virtual, like I've had no problem with people helping me or interacting and reaching out. And
yeah, I think a lot of us have find it that way. When I first started, I started here as a postdoc, and like our moving truck was delayed, and actually like 3 or 4 faculty and like just brought a bunch of furniture and stuff to my house until it all got here. So it's like it's really always kind of been that way.
yeah, and the city made a good impression on me. I live in Shadyside, and so everything's like super close, and supermarket is 5 minutes away. Then there's like bars and pubs are like very close, and I do have my car here, but honestly, the public transport's really good, so I use that a fair amount of time.
Cool. Thanks, Jordan. Next is Matt up in the corner, Matt Borelli. He is a G3, but he's a chemical and petroleum engineer student, right? Get that right. But yeah, so I've interacted with his mentor for quite a few years. And then we have some projects together looking at, can we harness the immune response, such as T regulatory cells in particular, as a way to lessen, shape repair after myocardial infarction. And so it's been a cool project. Matt's group really are leaders in using like nanoparticles or various drug delivery systems to control drug release, which is really paired nice with our studies in biologics as well as immunosuppressants. So Matt, I guess if you want to talk a little bit about what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, sure. So Pittsburgh is the biggest city I've ever lived in. I came from a town of about 150,000. I went to undergrad in a town of like 50,000, 60,000. Then lived and worked in a town of 150,000 after that. And then was in Memphis, Tennessee before Pittsburgh, which was around like under 500,000 people. So Pittsburgh's a big city in that it has everything that you want in a big city, but it's not in a big city where you have everything you don't want. So what I mean by that is traffic isn't really that big of a deal. Public transit is great. There's tons of options for food. There's avid communities of everything that you're into. I run and bike, and there are great communities for running and biking. Pittsburgh hosts a marathon annually that's a really scenic and fun route. So Pittsburgh's a great place to be. In addition to everything else everyone has said, I live over in Squirrel Hill, which is one of the other kind of small suburbs within the city or neighborhoods within the city. And that's a little bit cheaper than say Shadyside, but a short bus ride, about 15 minutes, and I'm in Shadyside and I can hang out with any friends who live there. So it's a very great place to be because every neighborhood has its own feel, but they're all connected and very close and easy to get to.
And then I see Maddie down in the bottom right. So Maddie, so you're a G5 bioengineering student, and Maddie's another one that's not a PMI student, but she's really interfaced with us a lot. They're doing some cool stuff, working with us as well as people all over the country, all over the world, looking at how the extracellular matrix interacts with myeloid cells. And they've identified some cool particles that we've used now in transplant to actually improve heart transplant outcomes. So Maddie, I guess I know you've interfaced with the Department of Immunology quite a bit too. I mean, how have you found interacting with that as kind of an outsider looking in?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. The depth of knowledge that I think you guys get in your program is absolutely amazing coming from an engineer. So I think that from what I can tell, it seems to be a really great program.
Right. And you guys, and as someone in regenerative medicine, it seems like you guys typically have quite a few like immunology people on your committees. You interact a lot that way. So it does reflect how collaborative it is, and also like with the push towards translation involves a lot of people. So thanks. And then Lu Fan up in the middle left. So Lu Fan is a Tsinghua medical student. She's just finishing up her 2 years here, and she's done a really great job leading our heart transplant program, using things like single-cell RNA-seq to look at how various immune cells interact with both each other and the stroma and the tissue. So say hello, Lu.
Hi, everyone.
And then final would just kind of be the infrastructure of our lab. These would be Lisa Matthews down in the middle. She's been with me for the longest, I guess. So she's the research scientist in the lab, but really kind of does it all for us. So, you know, she does the ordering as well as keeping the records, but then also can really step in and help with any experiment. So Lisa, you know, what's as someone who's been in Pittsburgh a while, what really has kept you here? What do you like best about the city?
Well, I like that Pittsburgh's very affordable. I've lived in 2 different houses here, and the market is fairly inexpensive. You can find almost anything in any price range. Food and culture is great. There's always something to do, some place to go when it's not COVID, but there's a lot of outdoor activities that you can do, and camping and parks that are nearby, and everything is fairly close to get to.
Good, thanks. And I guess finally, Anna down there. Anna's our mouse taker care extraordinaire. So she's takes care of, how many different colonies of mice we have, Anna?
I think currently we're at 27. We were a lot higher, but we got rid of some strains over the shutdown.
Yeah, and so obviously that's a lot of work, but she does a really great job. You know, keeps it so we can just dial up and see what the live mouse's availabilities are and then request and just do it from her home. So that's been really nice with COVID and everything. Carla up in the corner is our assistant who takes care of HR as well as just keeps everything running pretty smoothly. So, but anyways, that's the group. Hopefully you'll come check us out in Pittsburgh and ask us questions, if not through email, till we get back up and going, and in person while you're here. Thanks, everyone.